Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are going to check out the other half of the newer Jurassic World Rebirth, Wave 2 Gigantic Thrashers. We've got the Purrusaurus, and I have to give a massive shout out and thank you to my good buddy Marco Makes, because he was able to acquire this from Smith's in the UK and send it my way with another very cool figure I've been wanting for a little while, which I will have a review up for at some point soon. But again, this figure looks super cool and is an awesome choice from Mattel. The packaging looks pretty much the same. You've got the Spino over here on the side, the Rebirth logo, and then when you turn it around and take a look at the back, you can again see the Purrusaurus figure as well as the Gigantosaurus, which we have already reviewed a little ways back here on the channel. So let's pop this open and check it out. So here is our Purrusaurus now out of the packaging and looking super cool. This is definitely an incredible sculpt, and honestly one that I absolutely cannot wait for it to actually arrive here in the United States in stores, because I without a doubt want to get another to repaint. I say that a lot, but lately it seems like every new figure from Mattel has such insanely impressive fine detail that they're all screaming for me to repaint them. I'm definitely getting the same vibes from this one. Once you start here in the head sculpt, actually I'm going to readjust the camera just slightly to get a better closer look, and you can see again starting in the head sculpt, the detail looks very nice, very crocodilian as a whole. You've got some larger scales here on the lower jaw. I will say some of the detail in the face looks slightly muted, like specifically up here in the snout, but for the most part it looks pretty decent. We also have a nice dark tone for the face, like a really dark blue, but then there's a different shade of blue that moves over the snout, and that shade kind of has a little bit of a satin shine to it, a little gloss coat, so it almost has a bit of a wet look to it. We do have an orange for the eyes, as well as a nice slit-like black pupil, which looks pretty good. We also have again that darker blue here on the lower jaw that nice and smoothly transitions back to a lighter blue as you move further back. The overall color of this one could actually still look fairly decent for an animal like this. If you just gave it like a nice dark wash, I feel like I could potentially tie it all together. But when you open the mouth, first of all, I'm surprised to see we don't have an articulated lower jaw, only an articulated upper jaw, but you can see the teeth look great. Again, they all have that nice genuine sharp look because we have that new material that has much softer teeth, again, which helps to make them look a lot sharper and a lot more realistic. When you head inside the mouth, we've got the tongue in there and some okay detail on the upper side of the inside of the mouth. You can also see again that we have a nice pinkish tone as well as a gloss coat, a nice satin shine in there. And the teeth, even on the lower jaw, all look really quite nice, and as you can see, they have nice interlocking teeth on the figure once you close the mouth. Not fully interlocking, they don't do it everywhere, but in a few spots they kind of do. But as you move up to the top of the figure, you can see moving back into the neck, the blue does lighten a little bit, but as we lead back further, it seems like maybe it darkens up again a little bit as you lead along. We do have a nice heavily armored sort of a look to the back of the Purrusaurus, which of course is really cool and very much so what I would expect to see. But we do also have a large line of ridges that moves along the back of the figure, which definitely gives this a bit of a stylized look. And I like that as we move through those, first of all, they are a very dark blue, similar to the tone we saw in the head sculpt, but there's also like areas of damage that you can see in the ridges as you move along, which does add a nice bit of realism to the figure. You can also see a lighter blue beginning to pick up as you lead further back into the body, and that begins to pattern as you move out into the tail. As you lead down, you can see a pretty smooth transition from the top to this lighter blue of the underbelly of the figure. Again, with this darker tone down into that lighter tone, the transition's quite smooth, and the detail, again, in the actual body itself is very impressive, especially as you lead back into the stomach. Look at how excellent the actual skin texture looks on this figure. Again, just pretty much screaming for a dark wash to tie it all together. But again, we have that armored crocodilian look as we move up. You also have, again, very vibrant detail leading down into the legs. Really crisp sculpt, nice light blue. You've got the elbows sculpted out nicely, the wrist as well. The claws and everything are sculpted but unpainted, unfortunately. The toes do have sort of like a scoot-like appearance moving down them. As far as the articulation goes, it goes forward It doesn't really go back. I don't know if maybe that has something to do with the action feature. I guess we'll find out soon enough. But as you lead back, you've got a few skin wrinkles and stuff here back toward the rear leg. Again, really large scales moving down the rear leg. You can also get a good feel for the musculature of that leg. You've got the kneecap, the calf muscle. The scales do become smaller as you lead down into the foot, and then you've got some scoots down the toes, and again the claws. The claws do feature nice detail, just no paintwork sadly, but it would be nice to see some paintwork in that area. The articulation does work nicely here for the rear leg. A little jerky and a little limited, but you can get some nice forward and back movement. And then as you lead along, you do of course have another area of articulation here in the tail. That also coincides with the neck articulation, I think, which can go left and right. Same deal with the tail right here, also part of the action feature, I believe. But as you lead along, you have the kind of ridges picking up again along the back of the tail. You can also see some more moving along the side of the tail. We have a very armored look again as we lead out into the tail, and then you get really huge ones as you lead out here toward the ending of the tail. We also have that light blue that picks up and again leads out here and then disappears as you lead out toward the tip of the tail. Looks like we've, got a swivel right there, so again, just a little extra articulation. The tail is smacking the camera first of all, but does seem a bit short, of course. When it comes to Mattel figures, that is not a surprise. I also like, again, that we see some damage and stuff up there in the back of the tail, which is really nice. The figure almost has a fully painted look and feel, but just missing claw paint. That's really the only thing that this one was missing, I would say. The color scheme isn't the flashiest either. It's not anything mind-blowing, but it's decent for what it is. I do appreciate the amount of paintwork that Mattel has applied. You can see, again, the fact that we have color from head to tail looks nice. You can see it transition back into the lighter blue here on the underbelly of the figure, as we have, again, those kind of softer-looking scales on the underside, just like you would expect to see on a species like this. And then you do, of course, have the fax app code right there if you would like to add this one to your collection. The legs are in a slightly different position over here, but not all that far off from what we saw on the first side, but you're probably going to see the same thing as far as articulation goes. Let's see if we can get this leg moving. Yep, kind of jerky, but it goes forward and back. And this one just doesn't go back, only forward. It doesn't come out away from the body, so only forward. I don't know if there's something to do with the action feature there. I guess we'll see. Oh, yep, it definitely has something to do with the action feature. So when we move the tail, you can actually twist it as well, which you can see. So there we go. We can see the legs move, and we have a snapping action feature for our Purrusaurus. Really quick snap. It's hard to even get it to the point where you can open the mouth and just leave it there for a second, because it just snaps so quickly. And it can, of course, also go left and right, which you can see. If we come from the front, you can see again how that works, and then of course you twist it and it snaps that way as well. So pretty cool action feature. I actually quite like that. As far as the size goes, of course, with it being a Gigantic Thrashers, it is quite nicely sized. Lengthwise, you're looking at around 14 3/4 inches, or around 37.5 centimeters roughly. The highest point might be these ridges on the tail at about 3 inches or 7.5 centimeters, and then about 2 3/4 inches or a little over 7 centimeters there on the top of the head. So they're pretty similar in height. But for a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect A Human Being next to our Mattel Gigantic Thrashers Purrusaurus. And you can see again, it does have a really nice size to it, exactly as you would expect it to. But for another comparison that might be a little more helpful, we have the Gigantic Tracker Sarcosuchus next to the Gigantic Thrashers Purrusaurus, and you can see that these two figures are very similar in size. So if you do have the Sarcosuchus already in your collection from Mattel, you're already going to have a pretty good idea of the size of the Purrusaurus. There is also a Griposuchus in the line that I wanted to bring in, but that's a wild roar. But I wanted to bring that one in for a comparison as well, but I cannot for the life of me figure out where I put that one. So again, we'll just have to deal with this comparison to help give you a good idea of the size. And then, of course, we have the other figure in this wave, which is the Chelantosaurus next to the Purrusaurus, just to show the entire wave off, and, of course, give you another idea of the size of this figure. Unfortunately, I do not have any other figures of this species in my collection, so not much when it comes to comparisons with this figure, but I think the Sarcosuchus was probably the best comparison I could give you, and that's a figure that's been out twice now, 2 times it's been released, and has been out for a while, so it's roughly in the exact same size as that figure. But also, again, you can see that this wave overall is really quite spectacular. So this brand new Mattel Jurassic World Rebirth Gigantic Thrashers Purrusaurus is another awesome release, and I can very quickly and quite easily see that this one is going to fly off of the shelves once it does actually arrive here in the United States. If it hasn't already, it may have, and I may just not have heard about it, but it's absolutely spectacular when it comes to the sculpt. It really is one of the nicest looking sculpted Mattel figures that I've seen in quite some time. They've included tons of really nice fine detail, as well as a bit of, a stylized look for this one, as you usually find in the Mattel line, but I could definitely see kids specifically loving this figure. I really hope I can get my hands on another one to repaint. But the paint job of this one as well is decent, but it's nothing overly flashy. I wouldn't really expect something overly flashy though with a species like this, so I think as far as what Mattel could do with this, they did a pretty good job of giving it a fairly lifelike look with a little tiny element of flashiness, and again some nice smooth transitions, a little variation to the shades of color used. So, you have to give them some props because it does have almost a fully painted look and feel if it just had toe claws. And of course you do have some articulation as well as an action feature. The action feature is really quite fun. The articulation is a little limited on this one because you really only have the rear legs that just straight up articulate. Everything else is associated with the action feature. But as a whole, it is a pretty cool figure and definitely one worth picking up. So if you can find it, I absolutely recommend grabbing it. And of course it should begin showing up all over the place here in the United States at some point in the near future. So once you can find it, definitely pick it up and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.